Today we're going to discuss how to get equations that are in general form into standard form. So what I'd like to first do is take a look at these four equations and see if, looking at these equations, if I can identify the center and the radius just by looking at them. So what I want you to remember is that when we have a circle, we have an x squared and a y squared equal to some radius squared. So in number one, the center is 3, -2 with a radius of the square root of 25, which is 5. Here, x goes with our x coordinate. If it's positive, it's really negative, and if it's negative, it's really positive for our center. The radius is always the square root of this number. The x coordinate goes with the x. If it's positive, it's negative. The number that's with the y is the y coordinate. If there's not a number, then it's 0. And again, the radius is square root of 81. So I think that those constitute a couple of special cases. Here again, we have the x coordinate, we have the y coordinate, and the radius is the square root of 40, and the square root of 40 is approximately 6.32. So now what I'm going to spend the rest of the time with is how do we get something that doesn't look in standard form to look like standard form. So if you will grab the Skill Builder 69, and I will walk through problem number 1 with you in 16. There's quite a few steps to this process. So again, look at your worksheet. That's where these problems are coming from, and I'll give you the step-by-step process for that. So get a piece of paper. You'll have to show all your work when you're working through these problems. These problems will come to you in what we call general form, and about the only thing we can tell in general form is that it's a circle. And how can we tell that it's a circle? We have an x squared and a y squared, and the coefficients are positive and equal. So what we need to do is we need to get it into the form, the standard form, so that we can identify, just like we did, what is the center and what is the radius. So there's a process to do this, and that's what this explanation is about right now. So the first thing that you're going to do is put all the x's together and leave yourself a space, and I'll show you why, and all your y's together. And whatever number that you have, this is the number that I'm talking about, whatever this constant is, you're going to place this on the other side. So if it's a -11, to put it on the other side, we'll use good algebra. So we'll do the opposite, which is to add 11. Now, what we have to do now is we have to try to get these coefficients into some quantity squared, and our y coefficients into some quantity squared, so that I can identify the center. And this process is what we call completing the square. And completing the square, there's a little process with this. We're going to have 3 terms, 1, 2, 3, and those 3 terms are going to become a binomial squared. So when I talk about these 3 terms, I'm going to talk about this term as being the middle term. So to complete this term, we're going to take half the middle term and square it. Okay, now again, what do I mean by square it? I mean take whatever it is and multiply it by itself. So half of 2 is 1. We're going to square that. 1 times 1 is 1. And whatever we get to that, we're going to add that to both sides. So not only do I want you to copy down these notes, I want you to do exactly what I'm telling you. So half of 2 is 1, square it, we get a 1. And then whatever we get with that, we add that to both sides. Let's do the same thing with the 4. Half of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And step number 3 says add that to both sides. So I'll add 4 to both sides, so I'm not changing my equation. Now, here comes the interesting part. What we've done is we've really haven't changed the equation any, because I've added these to this side and to this side. But what we've done is we have taken this. Now let's remember how we factor. What are the factors of 1 that add up to 2? Well, that's x plus 1 times x plus 1. And how do we write that? We write that x plus 1 quantity squared. Let's look at this trinomial. What are the factors of 4 that add up to a negative 4? Negative 2 and negative 2. And how do we write that? Y minus 2 quantity squared. Now look, we should be able to identify the center now of this circle. What is the center? There's your x coordinate. If it's positive, it's negative. There's your y coordinate. If it's negative, it's positive. And then on the other side, which is going to be my radius squared, I add up, in this case, 11, 1, and 4 becomes a 16. And now I have standard form. I can identify the center, and I can identify the radius. So it's a 4-step process. It's pretty complicated. I want you to work through this and verify problem number 2 before you go any further. So again, I want you to put all your work on a separate sheet of paper. So your first step, you don't have to rewrite problem number 2, but let's do step 1 for number 2. And what is step 1? Put all your x's together. So whatever your x's are, leave a spot to complete the square. Put your y's together. Leave a spot to complete the square. And whatever your number is, this time it was a negative 15, you're going to put that on the other side, which is a positive 15. Okay. So step 1 should be your step on your separate sheet of paper. Again, you don't have to repeat the problem. Now, step 2 is what I'm going to be called as complete the square. And completing the square is we take half the middle term, and half of 6 is 3. And when we square that, that's what this number becomes. Once we add 9 to this side, we must add 9 to the other side as well. So we equate the equations. Half the middle term, half of negative 2 is negative 1. Square that, that's what goes in that slot. And again, we add that to both sides. Step 3 is we rewrite this equation so that it is a quantity squared. And how do we do that? Let's go back to our factoring work. What are the factors of 9 that add up to a negative 6? Well, negative 3 and negative 3. With our y squared, what are the factors of a positive 1 that add up to a negative 2? That would be a negative 1. That will help us identify the center. And then these numbers added together will be our radius squared. So you'll be asked to show this work and then identify the center. The center is our x and our y coordinate. And then the radius is squared, so the radius is only 5. And then when you're asked to do a quick sketch of this, we'll go to our center, which is 3, 1. You'll go a radius of 5, 5 to the right, 5 up, 5 over, 5 down, and graph a quick little sketch.